In a video coming up shortly, I was testing thermostats. Now, it was kind of interesting, but not really interesting. Well, it was, but it went on for about 15 minutes. But it just gives you some ideas how to test thermostats. So, with knowing that now, I've been spending my Saturday morning putting this together. So I've got the thermostat housing on. That's all done. Hose is on here. Now I fitted the front cover, as you can see. I've got it all bolted up. Now I used the one that I put some JB Weld on the inside and inside this tube here, because there was a wee hole in it, but now the hose is going to clamp really nice and tight onto there, so that's good. Now, if you'd seen earlier, one of the reasons, not that bit, that's it. Right, one of the reasons I didn't use this casting here, which is a bit scabby here, and it's a bit scabby here. This is the original off that engine. I'm desperately trying to find another one now, but because I need to put one on that engine over there to build it up. Just by coincidence, the old owner popped in yesterday to see how I was doing, and I showed him this, and he says, "Oh yeah." He says, "I had a hell of a job trying to get that off when I wanted to change the water pump, because the water pump, as you know, bolts through these three holes here, which go through to the block, and then a series of bolts around the pump. So you can't get the pump off without taking these bolts out, and he couldn't get them out. Anyway, having seen what the face was like here, he had this machine down. You see. And I think that's why the pulleys were a bit runny off. I think I did some work to them once before. You know, the pulley, the belts weren't running nice and true. So that goes in the scrap bin. It's not worth wasting any time on that. Sad really, but never mind. I've got everything built up on the front. We've gone through these before, but cleaned everything up in the vapor blaster. The pulley for here is just getting painted, and I'm going to fit a brand new 6203 bearing for the roller, for the idler. What else is there to tell you? Nothing really. A little bit of this sealer here, the black silicone, the SI 5980 on the P gasket here. So that's all nicely sealed up now. Nothing much really. It was just sort of nuts and bolts. We've done them before, but no doubt we'll do them again. But I'm a bit pressed because I want to get on with this job, because I want to do some other bits. So one of my jobs today, this is what this video is leading to, checking the glow plugs before I fit them. Let's have a look. Here we have the old glow plugs, and I have a battery here connected up with some fairly heavy leads. These wire here is off an old battery charger that was kaput. So I kept the wire and the clamps because they were quite good. Now you can test these by resistance to see if they're working, but as I always say, resistance is futile because you just don't know what they're supposed to be, because they could be really good plugs or they could be cheap Chinese ones. The best way to do it, put the negative onto your block, you know, disconnect the connecting wire that goes between the two, and simply, so we'll put a wire on here to replicate the block, and now we're going to touch the end of the wire and we should get a spark. We get nothing. We get nothing. That means there's no contact, there's nothing there, and as you can see here, nothing on the glow plug. One, kaput. Number two, don't want to burn myself with a high heat coming off here. Kaput. 3. Kaput. You know, kaput. So, fortunately, oh wait a minute, yeah, fortunately, oops, that is a bloody spark, so that's live. Fortunately, I have here a brand new set of Bearmark glow plugs. Now this is straight out the box, so without doing myself a mischief, and it's only 12 volts, so don't worry about that, boys and girls. We'll touch this. Did you see there, look? Watch the end. See? They're working. They're all right. Now these are Chinese ones. And also remember to disconnect your battery after using it, otherwise you'll get sparks aplenty. These are Chinese ones. They're not the best, but it's all I've got, right? One of the ideas about doing this job is to use a lot of stuff and bits and pieces I've got on the shelf, so I don't have to put them all back on again and use them up. So these are going to get used somewhere. I know they're working. I don't know where this engine or car is going to. Hard to say really, but if the glow plugs are working, it's going to make it a great one for winter. So what we're going to do next, we're going to fit them and we're going to give them a coat of anti-seize. Now you could use, this is the aluminium one, or you could use the copper. It doesn't really matter. I found out the copper does dry out a little bit. All right. Now, where we're going to put it? Glow plug, mate. Put some on the thread and put some down at the bottom. Down like that, look. Ooh. Ooh. Look at that. Like Nigella Rawson with the anti-seize. Why do we put it down at the bottom? Well, when we push that in, it's got to lubricate the head where this goes in. 9 times out of 10, when you snap a glow plug off, it will snap off here. Maybe here. But most of the time it's one of these points here. It doesn't snap off down at the bottom, because what happens is, when these glow plugs burn out sometimes, or they're old, these swell out, it all swells up. That means it's a bugger to get out. So the resistance is all down here. It starts to get carbon up this tube, and then they won't come out. So you're stuck. You really are stuck if these won't come out. I've tried all sorts of methods to get them out. There is different tools on the market, but quite frankly, the price of a head and the price of tools, I don't know, and time, is it worth it? But so when we put new ones in, always put anti-seize on. Can't stress that enough. So let me get these fitted, and then we'll do another test. Yeah, so what else have we got to say just about these glow plugs? When you're tightening them up and taking them off, the wire's kind of stiff. So hold on to the wire, and when you're tightening them up, just hold on to the wire and just nip them up. Don't rely on the pin inside, because if you tighten it, you'll snap the electrode pin. I'll put them all in like that, and then we'll give them a quick test. So I've just got the back wire off here, one onto ground. We've got a continuity through there. I know it's not the best way of testing these things, but there we go. You can see how hot my wires get in here. So we've got good resistance. Everything's working fine through there. The next thing to do is we've got the injectors in, injector pipes on, and then we'll have a look at the pipes at the top. We might replace the hoses. Next thing we're going to do, the pipes here. Now I've just pulled the old ones off and it broke. It's a little bit old, it's a little bit dry, it does dry out, and they're only cheap to replace. I buy this hose here. This is the proper stuff. This is a German stuff. If you want to know what size it is, it's 3.5 millimeter by 7.5. 3.5 by 7.5 millimeter. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. So how much do we need? Well, because we have to import this, it gets expensive, so we don't use too much. We want it so it's a good fit over the top. Now I had a nice pair of cutters for this, but I seem to have lent them out, not going back. But a nice sharp pair of scissors, and then just push them on. Come so. Here we go. Here we go. Like that, look. There. And how neat does that look? I'll get on with that. Also, at the same time, at the bottom here, fix the return pipe onto the back of the pump. Always using new copper washers, or if push comes to shove, warm them up, let them cool down, anneal them and put them back on, because we don't want leaks. So I'm going to do that, the other two pipes there. Injectors on, and then we're going to put a new O-ring on this breather, fasten that up, and that should take care of this side here. When fitting the injector pipes, I always like to fit the front ones first, work out where they're going to go, because they're easier to get the spanner in at this back one here. Also, blow these out with your airline. Where's my airline gone? Oh, I seem to have lost it somewhere. Anyway, oh, it's here. Get your airline, blow through these holes. These have been stood for quite a long while. I cleaned them all out. They'd been through the parts washer and things like that. And take all your caps off. It's a good idea if you're doing engines quite frequently to keep a set of caps per motor, if you see what I mean, and cover everything up, because a lot of people leave them open. You know, they leave the injectors out and all sorts of muck goes in. So as soon as you take them off, cap them. The last thing you want to do is get them dirty. See if we can get this one off. Right, so they're going to there. Yes, it would be nice with new pipes on, but these are quite adequate for the job. And again, quite easy to access these bolts down at the bottom here. You see the nuts that tighten it on? I always get nuts and bolts mixed up. You'd have thought after 40 years I would have got it right, wouldn't you? 17mm, where are you now? 17mm, tighten these two up first, then put the pipes on, because if not you have a hell of a job trying to get this one in the car, the one at the back here. See that one, it's a bit shadowed by that. So let me get the pipes on and then we'll think of something else to do. As you probably know, everything I try to build up I test with the smoke machine down here. And I've almost finished this engine now. I've got the turbo and intake to put on, but that's not really much. However, as you can probably hear in the background, the smoke machine is bubbling away, but I can't see any smoke. Now, just before lunch, I looked and looked and looked all over this engine to see where it was leaking from. I couldn't find anything. Couldn't see any smoke, but the machine is bubbling away. So where's it coming from? Well, let me take the camera off and I'll show you. I'm not sure if you can see. Let me move that hose out of the way. Can you see where it's coming from? Everywhere's perfect except for there. Now it's not putting any smoke out. Maybe I'll move the camera around a bit, you can see, but it's a really tricky one to see. But yeah, that's where it's coming from. It's coming out the shaft, the pivot shaft for the lift pump. Let me get a lift pump and I'll explain. Now, this is the old engine, and we did notice on this motor when we took it apart, there's an awful lot of oil coming down this way. Can you see it? See, it's all greasy and oily, but nothing at this side. Now, we knew that the O-ring on the oil filter adapter was leaking, but you see there, look, you can sort of see where it's been coming down. So that's been leaking for quite a long time. This has been leaking and dripping down here, but notice where there's a distinct border here, there's nothing. It's sort of semi-dry, but all that's there and all that's there. So I think we'll change that pump, but let's go and have a look at what a lift pump looks like. The only one I've got on the shelf is our old favourite Britrest one. Now, it does come with new olives and compression fittings, and also 2 gaskets which I fit. Now, there's supposed to be a spacer, I think, in these, but I've got away with just putting the two gaskets on, and it works quite well. They are notoriously problematic lift pumps. I've started to use electric pumps now, but seeing we've got one, well, we might as well fit it. So where's it leaking from? Here. See, it's getting, this goes to your engine crankcases, which is leaking out of here, but not out of here. So what I'm going to do, reluctantly, I'm going to put this back on and test it, because like ooh, it's like a bird, isn't it? Like a cuckoo. Now if you look inside where I'll do the cuckoo bit, you can see, perhaps you can just see the shaft moving. There you go. Ooh. That's usually, you know, when it makes that noise, it usually means it's a good pump. It's probably how they do it in China. So that's all right. Throw it in the bin with the rest of them. I don't know if there's any O-rings around there or not. Probably not. Probably it's relying on a metal-to-metal contact. Is it being anal? Yes, it is. But I want this to be right. You know what I mean? I don't want it dripping oil. So let's get it fitted. If you've been messing about with Land Rovers for an awful long time, you will collect up an awful amount of washers, copper parts. This is all for fuel system. Fuel fittings, olives, all sorts of different bits and pieces, as you can see here. Really handy to have. Or one of the handiest ones is a blanking plug like this. Now you find them on the back of old fuel tanks, notably V8s, where there's perhaps a return. But you can actually buy them. Be aware there's two different threads, as usual. But what they're handy for is this. When you put your union on there, you then put an olive on like this. Now be aware, these aren't like 5/16 olives, these are metric ones. But what you can do is this. Put that little cap on there, see it push the olive down, put this on here. So when I'm doing it sort of with one hand, but aren't I good? But when you tighten that up, the olive will be in the right place for when you put the pipe fitting on. Isn't that clever? So instead of messing about by the side of the engine, you can pre-fit them before you put it on, and then it's done. How simple is that? There you go. Look at that. So they're already fitted, it won't drop off, and easier to fit than when it's on the engine. Do it in your hand, do it in the vise, easy. Now, for those of you who are asking, what the hell's Olive? Wasn't she married to Popeye? It's a little brass barrel, tapered. And what it does is it's supposed to, when you tighten up this, how do we describe it? This olive here, this nut, you've got two, oh, there's one missing. You've got two corresponding pieces like this, you see? So when you tighten it up, this compresses round the pipe and clinches really tight and makes a seal. Kind of easy really, isn't it? Bugger to get off though, can't use them twice. So, in your box, have a supply of olives just in case, because when they do leak, there's nothing you can do with them. And getting them off, bit of a bugger. You can file them off, pull them off with a pair of pliers, but they are a bit of a bugger to get off because they crimp into the pipe, if you see what I mean. Anyway, that's now you know. So let me get this pump fitted and we'll see what it leaks like. What do you mean see what it leaks like? It shouldn't leak at all. Introducing the baritone pump. Now, this is the one I've just taken off. It's a soprano. If you notice here, this is where it was leaking from, just here. And this one, this is quite pronounced, but this one is quite recessed as it pushed out. I don't know. Can we fix it by nipping it up? Well, we will do, but what we're going to do is fit this one first, the new one, and see how it works. I just thought I'd show you, I was just messed about with it, and just seeing how it would sound. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? like Noddy's car. So the pump checks out fine, but there is another leak, but it's not important. It's here, on the cap. Look. See there? That's a good example, isn't it? Look at that. Now I'm not bothered about that at all, because when I put the proper fitting on it'll be fine. It's always a problem trying to seal up like threads and things like this. But I'm kind of pleased about that. I've been all over this engine. There's no more leaks. There's no leaks on the oil pan, the sump, the front cover. There's nothing coming out of the timing cover or the rear cover. Just a little bit of a bubbly wobbly here. And I hope you can see it because it's well worth seeing. Well, it's not really, but you know what I mean. But there you go. That's checking an engine out for leaks before we fit it. Good, isn't it? It's nothing worse than finding out you've got a leak on a motor once you've got it fitted. Once you've got it fitted. So check them. See you later.